Attorney, author, and activist, Jarrett Adams was wrongfully convicted of a crime at age 17 and sentenced to 28 years in a maximum security prison. After serving nearly 10 years and filing multiple appeals, the Seventh Circuit United States Court of Appeals exonerated him with the assistance of the Wisconsin Innocence Project. He used the injustice he endured as inspiration to become an advocate and attorney for the underserved and often uncounted. Jarrett Adams shares his cinematic story of hope and redemption in his memoir, Redeeming Justice. His account of his incarceration, exoneration, and redemption has been featured widely in the media, and he has become a sought-after motivational speaker for athletes, students, inmates, attorneys, and others. This year, the Chicago Defender wanted to know what Dr. King's vision looked like today. We reached out to community leaders, activists, advocates, and experts in the fields of law, politics, healthcare, and education to ask the question, what does social justice look like now? The Chicago Defender is pleased to speak with Jarrett Adams about what social justice looks like now within the criminal justice system. So I wanted to start, what do you believe social justice looks like now?
Social justice is well, I'll say this. The dream that Dr. King had is we still got work to do, to get to that. And to take away the big words and any confusion. His dream was about equality in terms of the criminal justice system. And you can't have fair treatment of all if you don't have equality. And that's what social justice is struggling with right now. And when I'm talking about equality, let me be very clear with what I mean by that. I'm not just talking about employing people of color. I'm talking about placing people of color in leadership positions, people who are directly impacted by some of the things in the justice system. Those directly impacted people must be in a leadership position in order for us to see real change in criminal justice and social justice, which is one and the same.
Yeah. And one of the things I just found it so ironic. I watched a documentary that's coming out next week from the ACLU attorney that's called Who We Are, A Chronicle of Racism in America. And just seeing how Dr. King was fighting for the Voters' Rights Act, and we're still here in 2022 fighting to get a Voters' Rights Act passed and fighting to ensure that every citizen, regardless of their criminal background, once they've served their time, they're supposed to be allowed to re-enter society and be allowed to vote in all these different ways that people are using, to suppress the vote, and using things like mass incarceration, which primarily affects Black and brown people, how that all translates into really making a dent into our criminal justice system to make it more equal. And I know, your experience on both sides of the criminal justice system really can speak to that. Can you talk about what needs to happen right now with our criminal justice system?
Yeah. One of the first things that I advocate for is this. We have a population of people who are incarcerated alone, over 2 million, right? If you look deeper into those numbers, you'll see that of that 2 million, more than half have encountered the criminal justice system before. So that's not indicative of the person so much as it is the system that we have. We're not helping people. We're not repairing people. We're not, quote unquote, correcting people. We are simply warehousing them for decades at a time, and we are releasing them back into the communities that make up the predominant population of people who are incarcerated. So again, I go back to that leadership position, and I'll use an analogy. I was speaking to someone, at an event, and they were saying, can you give an example of why it's important to have directly impacted people who are in a position. And I gave the example of, have you ever seen a fire crew? When they're racing to go put out a fire, what they do is they form a line, right? And they form a line and they feed the water hose where? To the person who's closest where? To the blaze.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. We in the African American community are living in communities that are ablaze with poverty, lack of childcare, poor educational systems. And so we need to feed that water hose of resources of people who are coming to revitalize community. We need to give them the water hose. And that's the best way that I can answer that question. We have to put people who are directly impacted, who are closest to the problem, in a position because they have the solutions. They're just usually the furthest away from the resources to implement those solutions.
Yeah. One of the things, just in the research, I came across a speech that Dr. King gave where he talked about how easy it was to make certain changes that didn't require any money.
Exactly.
When it came to really addressing economic empowerment, all the things that contribute to crime and violence, nobody wants to put any money into that.
Yeah.
What do you think are ways that people like yourself, what are you guys doing now? This new kind of, I call it new grassroots movement of young people who are really getting involved. What are the challenges that you guys are facing when you all are fighting for criminal justice reform?
There's still some of the same things. And I love what you just said about going back and listening to some of those old speeches in letters. I think that people can gain a lot of insight and knowledge from going back to go listen to those, because what you'll hear is you're hearing the same complaints and arguments.
Yeah.
And we're dealing with them. They may have morphed, but we're still dealing with those same issues. And I think that one of the things that myself and the attorneys that I'm working with, specifically in Chicago, the Bronzeville Law Group, which we're right, next door over there by you guys at the Defender. One of the things that we're trying to focus on is duplication. Dan, we need to duplicate these young Black boys, these young Black girls. We need to duplicate more successful entrepreneurs, and give our kids the opportunity to see that they can be effective, they can be successful, and they don't have to be entertainers to do so. There are other avenues and other opportunities. So what we're doing is this: we're literally plucking kids as early as 7th and 8th grade and giving them internships in our office. I can't overstate this. I remember as I was a 17-year-old and I was sitting in the police station, I could remember every lyric to Tupac's, Brenda's Got a Baby, his whole, double CD. I literally did not know any amendment that would have said, Jarrett, wait till your mom gets here. Jarrett, call and wait for a lawyer to get here. We have to start having these conversations before they become Dateline specials.
Can you speak a little bit more about the Bronzeville Law Group and what your mission is as a collective?
So what we're doing right now is this: it's 4 attorneys right now who are in office over there, including myself. Brandon Brown is another attorney who is over there as well. And what we're doing is this: we specifically opened the office on the south side of Chicago and not downtown, because that's where the problem is. The problem is on the south side, on the west side. And so what we're doing is this: we're trying through each one reach one sort of a strategy where we're offering kids the opportunity to come sit in a law firm and come learn and see whether or not the law is something that you want to get into. And even if it isn't, the law is most certainly something that you should know.
So to be able to get kids and young people engaged serves 2 purposes. A, it can inspire a career.
Absolutely.
It can inspire that. And B, give you knowledge about things that you need to know as a Black person living in America, things that we had to learn kind of trial by fire.
Right. Yeah.
We weren't told this information by our parents, are there any other things that you think as a people, as Black people, as we reflect on Dr. King's legacy, where we really bring it home, where it's not just something that we look at videos from back in the day, but how do we take the lessons and the strategies used from that era, from the civil rights movement, and apply it to this moment in time, which is another tipping point in America?
Absolutely. Let me point something out that I realize and I recognize from both the civil rights era and right now what we have with Black Lives Matter and the youth. Let me tell you, you go look at those pictures. If you look at the pictures of the people who were getting canines sick on them and who were being sprayed by the water hose, the majority of them was our youth. Mm-hmm. That's who it was. And so that is a sign to us to say they had it right. They were able to accomplish something when they invited and embraced the youth. We have to continue to nurture that population of new thought leaders, of our youth, and involve them in the conversation, because, Danny, they got next. That's who we're passing the baton to. So why would we not want to make sure that they're the most prepared as possible? So I say that to say this. Working together sometimes is the most difficult thing, and it was even, that case in the civil rights era, trying to get everyone on the same page. But the one thing that everyone was on the same page was how important it was to involve the youth. If I can just say that, let's get back to that. And let's get back to making sure that we're involving the youth. There are no such thing as a throwaway. And I'll say this, and I've said this so many times. We have not one gun manufacturer in the state of Illinois. We don't produce one bullet in the state of Illinois. No ammunition. We can't keep having all the dead Black boys and increasingly girls in the state of Illinois, specifically in the city of Chicago.
Yeah. I found it interesting because as I was, watching certain shows, and I noticed Dr. King, Malcolm X, Emmett Till's mother, all of these people were in their 30s.
Yeah.
They were young when they became activists. And just like our activists now, Black Lives Matter and others, they were vilified and called thugs in different words and called agitators. And we're doing the same thing to our young activists, not we, but let me say, I'm trying to say how I can say that nicely. Others are really vilifying the same way they did Dr. King. Dr. King went to jail over 30 times.
30 times.
In today's time, he would be considered a thug.
Here's another example, right? A present example. January 6th last year, you had a group of thugs and hooligans go storm the Capitol.
Yep.
Right? Months before that, you had a group of youth, angry youth, going through neighborhoods, breaking windows, taking a few items. There were more, which do you think there were more arrests out of?
Right. That's right.
You see what I'm saying? We're talking about a threat on CVS and Walgreens as opposed to a threat on our democracy.
Right.
And they were handled totally different ways. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying by what I mean by the oppressors to justice have to be replaced. And the only way that they are replaced is if we nurture our kids in that duplication fashion that I was speaking about.
Mm-hmm. And when you talk about duplication, can you kind of break that down a little bit, what you mean by that?
Here's what duplication is. Why isn't there some young girl in school right now understanding who Danny is and how powerful she is as a writer, as a voice, to give voice to the voiceless? Why isn't there some young man, learning about what the Bronzeville Law Group is doing and how to get involved? That's what I mean by duplication. And it's not that the efforts aren't being made. We just have to continue to do more.
I can't thank you enough for doing this. Your voice and the work you're doing is so important. Can you just tell people that didn't read it the first time, can you talk to us about your book and tell us what it's about and where we can get it, all that good stuff?
I sure can. Listen, I want you to go pick up this book, Redeeming Justice. This book, in so many ways, is a a letter to young Black boys. It is an acknowledgement and a tipping of the cap to the strength of Black women. And that's how I opened up my book. And more importantly, this thing is a roller coaster of emotions that ends with the journey of Jarrett Adams giving back, as I'm doing right now. So please go out and check out Redeeming Justice.
What a great story of resilience and triumph, and not allowing the system to confine you and put you in a box that you couldn't get out. So kudos to you for breaking free of those things. You know, people need to see that as well, that there is redemption. Jarrett Adams' compelling memoir, Redeeming Justice, From Defendant to Defender, My Fight for Equity on Both Sides of a Broken System, is available at all booksellers and online retailers nationwide.